What I think is really important for people to understand is there are hidden costs to choosing the conventional method that add up very quickly. Welcome to the Crunchy Carnivore Podcast. I am Melissa Weidenhammer, natural rearing breeder, certified canine nutritionist, and I am here with holistic veterinarian, Dr. Jessica Levy. We are going to be touching on a topic today that I think is going to be a little bit eye-opening for people. It was for me as I did the research for this episode. Dr. Levy, you want to share what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, this is a central topic that comes up a lot because the first thing that people often say when they hear about raw feeding or raising their pets more holistically is, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. Mm-hmm. And so Melissa did some digging into the numbers so that we could really compare. I did this a few years ago and came to the conclusion that doing things holistically was actually cheaper than the conventional way. And I was kind of surprised to see that myself, honestly. Mm-hmm. But then Melissa crunched some serious numbers that are like up to date with veterinary prices today.
Yes, 2025.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting to see what she found.
So what we're really going over today is, as Dr. Levy mentioned, is holistic more or less expensive than doing the conventional approach, because this is a huge opposition to doing raw feeding and things like that.
Well, and I think too, like, it's hard to imagine that, even if you are going to spend more upfront on pet food, will it really be worth it in the long run? Mm-hmm. Like, is that really an investment that balances itself out over time so that it comes out in your favor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really the biggest cost or the biggest investment when it comes to doing things holistically is going to be your food. You will hear a lot of people that use this approach say it's not just a living expense, it is an investment when you choose to feed fresh food. And so we're going to hash this out. So basically the way that I did this, I have dogs that are about 50 to 55 pounds. And so I could realistically compare, because I have my budget sheets, I know exactly what I buy and all of that and how realistic those numbers are. And so I used a 50-pound dog when I was comparing. And so we went first with the food, because that's the biggie. When you look at dry dog food, there is a wide price range in dry dog. Yes, I mean you can go to Walmart and or Costco and buy a huge bag of dog food for $30, right? Yeah, last year forever. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. That's not a fair comparison. And so when I looked at this, and I went to one of the biggest online pet suppliers that people use, which is Chewy. It's an easy one. They sell a huge range of quality. I took numbers from them, and I took like the top 4 of the middle to high quality considered kibble. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when we're talking about kibble, we're looking at a higher quality. For a 50-pound dog, you're going to range anywhere from $100 to $130 a month for dry dog food for a 50-pound dog, if it's good kibble.
Right, because like realistically, you can't really say, I want to treat my dog holistically, I want my dog to be supremely healthy, but you know what, I don't really want to spend money on pet food. Like, you're going to have to.
Right.
Everybody's health starts with nutrition, and so you can't feed super cheapo kibble and come out with a healthy dog. Like, that's just not logical.
Right. It's like trying to feed your kid McDonald's every day and then expecting them to not have health problems.
Exactly.
So we've got 50-pound dog, $100 to $130 a month for good kibble. When I looked at raw, again, I used my own experience with my own dogs and what I actually spend. And it was $150 to $200 a month to feed my 50-pound dog. Raw food, and that's a fully balanced diet. That was me taking into consideration, Sometimes you buy more of things, you don't need to buy things. There is a tiny bit of supplements that I use. I spend a lot up front when I do that, and then it lasts me a long time.
So this is like a varied raw diet, including supplements.
Yes, and I took all of that in consideration. I mean, there are months where if all I have to do is buy the 80-10-10 grind because I'm stocked up on everything else, I could get away with $100 a month. I could.
Sure.
But it just depends. So I really tried to take into consideration even my expensive supplements that I do broken up over time. I took those into consideration because we want to make sure we're covering all bases.
And I gotta say, there are so many places to get raw pet food.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking, well, not in my town, oh, there are places that will ship. And maybe once every month or two, you drive someplace and buy a whole ton of stuff. I mean, there's ways around this. Admittedly, we are kind of sitting pretty here. We have a lot of good quality suppliers in and around the Twin Cities. And so it is very easy to get good quality raw food here. And I also some of it depends on freezer space, the size of the dog, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I have two, not like the hugely long chest freezers, but I can't even say freezers for some reason. But I have two, they're about the size of this desk. I have two chest freezers for my dogs, and we got a 21 cubic foot upright that I am in love with because I like to buy about 6 weeks worth at a time.
I like to do a month
of the 80-10-10. Yeah, if I could I'm not the kind of person, I don't want to buy dog food once a week or something like that. But if you live in an apartment and all you're working with is the freezer over your refrigerator, you might be buying dog food once a week or twice a week or something like that.
Well, and you'll also find it very common that, a lot of the raw food suppliers that I've seen, or even the ones that I use, if you buy more at a time, you save money. And so not only do I like to stock up because I don't like going every week, there's a price break. So we've got, a more budget-friendly raw source that we use for the proteins. I've got kind of my higher end that the quality is just off the charts. But either way, when I buy in bulk, when I buy more at a time, I get a price break per pound on that food, and then I'm also stocked up. So there are different things like that to take into consideration. But basically, we have kibble that's $100 to $130 a month. We've got raw that's $150 to $200 a month. So really, you're talking about a $50 to $70 a month difference. Okay,
that's including supplements for the raw.
And that's, in my opinion, doing raw the right way without being crazy about it.
Correct.
Okay, it could be a little bit more, but okay. So that was the first thing we compared. So with your food, you're definitely going to spend more per month on raw food. Duh, right?
Yes.
Duh. Okay. Here's where it gets interesting. Next, we learned, and I really had to lean on you for this as well as the numbers I was finding online. We looked at annual maintenance, visits, or care for the dog from the conventional standpoint versus the holistic standpoint. We took into consideration things like annual exam, yearly diagnostic, tests for heartworm. If there's, preventative medicine, we took that into consideration, which it does look a little bit different, holistic versus traditional, but we're just looking at cost right now. We're not talking about how to. So the conventional maintenance cost for a dog, and this does include taking care of their teeth. Okay, it does include a teeth cleaning. Not everybody does that, but a lot of people do that, which is why we included it. And that is part of dog maintenance, is taking care of their teeth. It was $1,582 a year.
To do things the conventional
way.
For one 50-pound dog.
For one 50-pound dog. And I don't know that it really, because it did, the preventative medicine is the amount you're giving is depending on the size of the dog. Was that the only variation?
But for something like HeartGuard, the 50-pound is like the upper range.
Sure.
So.
Okay, so conventional yearly maintenance, $1,582. Holistic, $414. That is over $1,000 difference. That is very realistic numbers. And I will say, for the conventional maintenance with the teeth cleaning, I use the lowest number. It can vary from $700 up to $1,500, $1,600 to have your dog's teeth cleaned. They're put under all the things.
And
so
and you may be thinking like, oh my gosh, it doesn't cost that much where I live. It does cost that much here.
Yeah.
If you can get your dog's teeth cleaned for $700, that's bargain basement.
So we really did try and err on the side of, like, we try to be as realistic as possible. And if nothing else, give, the lower end of the conventional approach. We're not trying to inflate numbers. We really wanted to look at this from a very realistic standpoint. So at this point now, we've got the maintenance part of it. Now, if you combine the food and the maintenance on an annual basis for a conventionally raised dog on kibble, you're at $3,142 for conventional approach for a 50-pound dog.
Okay, and for the holistic approach?
$2,814. So right there, okay, we have more to talk about.
Yeah, what was the first number? 3,000 what?
$3,142 to use the conventional approach to raise a 50-pound dog per year.
Compared to 2,800?
Compared to 2,814. And this is taken into consideration all of the insect and parasite prevention, any immunization, anything like that. It was all taken, it was apples to apples, as far as you could do that with traditional and conventional. So, but then it doesn't end there, does it, Dr. Levy?
No.
No, it does not end there, because this is just maintenance. Okay?
Right.
This is just maintenance. So we're already ahead of the holistic camp. I will say that. Even feeding a raw diet. So we're already ahead by about $300 per year. But what I think is really important for people to understand is there are hidden costs to choosing the conventional method that add up very quickly.
What kinds of things are you thinking of?
There's the common just kind of negative consequences of raising conventionally or on kibble, right? Like we set our dogs up when we use things like conventional vaccines, or there's over-vaccination when they're fed nothing but dry food. That lends itself to some pretty common issues that we see all the time that I think people don't realize that that's where it's coming from. And so I think it would be helpful for people to hear from you. What are those common things that are going to occur when you use those kind of methods? And then we can talk about some of the costs, financial costs by itself. Right. But there's more costs than just that go with them. So what would be some of those things that just you almost always see?
So it's kind of a combination of vaccines plus processed food, right? And so that overlaying your personal dog's genetic background can lead you down a number of roads. So one road is going to look like inflammatory bowel disease. One road is going to look like allergies. And allergies in veterinary medicine include everything from the dogs who chew their feet, the dogs who scoot their butts and have anal gland issues, ear infections, skin breakouts, random itching. So all of those are going to be called allergies in the conventional community, but it is actually a detoxification attempt, and on the basis of a malfunctioning immune system. And so that's where the connection comes between, what does my dog's itchiness have to do with what I'm feeding him? Right. It is indeed connected through the detoxification mechanisms and through the internal workings of our dog's immune systems.
So, allergies is a huge one. And I've actually worked with several people, some of them, even people that have gotten puppies from me in the past that then strayed from what I taught. They started out the way I told them to start out and then veered. And so, the average cost of an allergy medication is $90 a month. And that's depending on where you're getting it and how you're getting it. That can vary $20 to $30, a little bit more. And even then, you're not necessarily really helping the problem.
Right.
You know, I mean, they still may be suffering some from these symptoms. It's not like it magically all goes away.
Right. And so what I take from that is that you're band-aiding the system, but you're not correcting the underlying problem.
Right. But I mean, so now you get to add on $90 to $100 a month for allergy medicine. And that's just one medication if that's all you're doing.
Right, which may or may not be sufficient.
Which may or may not actually solve the problem. So that's just allergies. And then I know you have talked about Cushing's, and that's not something that I'm super familiar with, but I know that you're pretty well versed in that. So, you know, when you're looking at so let's talk about Cushing's. So can you explain for people that, I mean, kind of like me, that don't necessarily have never experienced Cushing's, what is Cushing's?
Cushing's is the common term for hyperadrenocorticism, when the dog's adrenal glands are essentially in overdrive.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like when you take steroids, you're adding steroids to what your body normally makes. When you have Cushing's, your body is on its own producing more steroids than you need.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like being in a state of extreme stress all the time.
Okay.
And so extreme that just like steroids are immunosuppressive, being under that amount of stress or having cortisol levels that are that high, right? Cortisol is like your body's natural form of prednisone. Having cortisol levels that are that high, it's also immunosuppressive. So it leads to a host of other problems.
So when we looked at the common medication for Cushing's that is prescribed conventionally,
Veteril.
You're again looking at about $88 a month.
And we're talking about 50-pound dog.
Yeah, talking about a 50-pound dog.
Not talking about everybody.
So, you know, now we've got our second problem that you're pushing $100 a month just in one medication to deal with a problem that really may not even fully deal with the problem.
And I think too, like the odds of your dog being put on one single medication that then fixes all its symptoms, it's not going to fix the problem, but makes all its symptoms go away. I think polypharmacy is more the norm, where dogs are put on 2, 3, 4, 5 different medications. I mean, that's the way it's kind of commonly done in human medicine now too. And some of the thinking with some conditions, it's because if you use multiple drugs at a time, it allows you to maybe use lower doses of each one, because you kind of get a compounding effect that might, if you only used a single drug but had to use high doses, you might run into more side effects doing things that way.
Okay.
So
when you're talking about using multiple medications, it is literally to address that one problem, not necessarily what I kind of think of as the snowball effect, where once you start one medication.
No, that's later.
That's later. Okay. So that doesn't count with what
No,
you're
that's
literally
not
just talking about
including
dealing
that.
with one problem. Okay.
Correct.
So one thing, so now we've got allergies, we've got Cushing's, you're at about $100 a month for one solution, and the likelihood is you're not going to stay at one solution. So now you've got that going on.
Right.
Plus your dog is suffering this whole time. That's obviously the worst part of it. But then one thing that I wanted to look at was I was breeding a power breed. They're very muscular. They have a lot of power in their hind end. What was very common in the breed overall that I would see is ACL tears. You know, they bust their knee. They would, you know, tear different ligaments, things like that. And, you know, these dogs end up getting surgery before they're even 2 years old. They hurt themselves, right? And so I fortunately never had that. I heard about it from one family. Again, they strayed from what I taught. They fed dry food, right? So I wanted to look at ACL surgery because I feel like those ligament tears and different skeletal injuries are common. I don't think they're that uncommon. That wouldn't just happen to be very common with my breed. And so I wanted to look at what one surgery would be for that. And again, it was a pretty big range, but still $2,000 to $6,000 was the average range. So obviously it can be higher, it can be maybe a little lower.
Are you talking about one knee?
One surgery for an ACL. One ACL surgery was $2,000 to $6,000. So, you know, you start adding up these costs and it on top of what you're already spending a little bit more per year with the conventional approach. But then we looked at something which is a common issue. Again, it can be linked back to some of these conventional practices like the dry food or the over-vaccination or different things like that. Anxiety in dogs is one of the, I think you've mentioned, like one of the most prescribed, every dog comes into your practice almost seems like they're on some sort of anxiety medication. Like
Correct.
This is very common. So we're like, okay, doggy Prozac, right? There's an actual, it starts with an F. I can't remember.
Fluoxetine is the drug name for Prozac, but there's one that's made for dogs.
Specifically for dogs.
I think it's called Reconcile. Is that what it?
I can't remember.
Which in retrospect is just a terrible name.
It's a terrible name.
It's like resign yourself to your fate.
Anxiety medication, so many dogs. Now, this one, it was $6 a month. $6 a month. And I'm like, okay, we can't even complain.
That's affordable.
Can't even complain about that until, if you do what Dr. Levy tells you to do, go look up the human version and look at the side effects of said medication. You are looking at side effects like GI issues, nervous system issues, emotional issues, allergic reactions, immune suppression. These were all side effects listed on the Prozac medication. A lot of these were also found as side effects for like your Apoquel, your very common allergy medicine for dogs. What I think a lot of people don't realize is that things like Apoquel, that is not supposed to be a part of your dog's life for more than I think at the most 60 days, but I think that's even too long.
I think now they're recommending 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's very short, and a lot of dogs are just perpetually on something like Apoquel. What they don't realize is the whole purpose, like the whole way Apoquel works, or drugs like it, is it completely suppresses the immune response, which is why you don't see the symptoms anymore of these allergic, reaction symptoms. You're suppressing the dog's immune system, and so then what are you setting up your dog for? How many other problems? It's easier for them to get sick, things like that. So not only do you have the financial impact of managing some of these things, you are setting yourself up to create a whole nother laundry list of issues in your dog or your cat or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I think really our big takeaways is what we want to encourage people to do is to think big picture. This idea to, water down, to holistic and zoom in, and all you see is how expensive the food is in comparison to a bag of kibble. You need to zoom out. You have got to look at the big picture. That is not all it's costing you. The food it's a drop in the bucket. The amount, a little bit more that you're going to pay for that food, even if it's double what you're spending on kibble right now. Right. It pales in comparison to what the rest of the conventional approach brings with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, if you think about just holistic practice, which I've been in for 15 years now, just purely holistic practice. And so, yes, the price tag on the exam is higher up front, but you're getting a lot of time and you're getting a complete education. Whereas in the conventional veterinary world, because I used to work there too, and so there it's more like the modern medical system where you're getting a few minutes of the doctor's time in return for your dollars. Mm-hmm. So I think, there's a difference there. I do a ton of hand holding in my practice. I, depending on how sick an animal might be, sometimes I have people who contact me every day with updates and, will respond and adjust treatment as necessary. So I think there's definitely more input in the holistic world. You should come out of the appointment with better understanding of what you're doing, why, what exactly is going on with your pet, and what you're going to do about it, essentially, versus, if you just take your dog in for an ear infection and the doctor only checks the ears and says, here's a medication for the ears, you're missing out on the whole point.
Where is it coming
of
from?
The exam, right? How are you going to resolve that satisfactorily for the rest of your dog's life, if possible, versus just making this ear infection right now go away for a few days and then come back.
So I'd like to give just kind of a quick perspective on that, because I think that's a really easy one for people to relate to is their dog gets an ear infection. So conventionally speaking, your dog gets an ear infection, you bring them into the vet, they give antibiotics, right? What is the common treatment for that? And then also, it seems like it's working. It seems like it clears up the ear infection, but what is actually happening? So what's the common treatment for an ear infection? What's actually happening?
Right, so it depends on how bad the ear infection is. In some cases, just an eardrop or an ear treatment might be given in the office or might be sent home with the pet owner. Depending on how bad things are, you could end up with antibiotics and or steroids and or painkillers and or other meds. It seems like every dog I see is on gabapentin sometimes, or trazodone if they don't like the vet.
And what are those drugs?
Trazodone is an antipsychotic that is used to, like kind of as a tranquilizer, you know, so your vet might ask you to give it before you come into the vet clinic. Gabapentin is meant to be used for nerve pain, but it's used for basically everything. And so you end up with like this plethora of substances all designed to make your dog more comfortable, which is a valuable thing to look forward to, but also to make that ear infection go away. Unfortunately, ear infections are a detoxification mechanism. And so one of the things we don't necessarily want to do is we don't want to make detox symptoms just go away. We don't want to stop a detox that's in progress, because that is actually a beneficial thing for the dog. So,
So the conventional treatment for this, which makes it go away, quote unquote, go away, is actually just suppressing and stopping a detoxification process.
Correct.
And so the likelihood is that it will probably just come back because you're not dealing with the root issue.
Right, and if it doesn't come back, then that part of the dog's immune system, that pathway of detoxification has been completely suppressed. And then what's going to happen? Detoxification is literally gathering up junk from the inside of your body and moving it out of your body. That is something that is desirable. I don't want it to happen to my patients like, let's detox everything all at once, because that is very uncomfortable and nobody deserves to be that miserable. But doing a gentle, slow, easily tolerated detox is beneficial. Whereas, you know, like you said, the conventional approach is stopping detoxification, but then you have to think like, well, then what are the implications? My dog was getting rid of junk this way because this is the path of least resistance for him. Now we've taken away that option. Now where are things going to go?
Could show up some other way.
Yep.
A little bit worse, maybe. So as always, you know, as we like to talk about things, we always like to give resources in case you do want to do a little bit more learning and researching on your own. Dr. Levy and I love books. And so, you know, we wanted to recommend a couple in case you really wanted to start learning a little bit more about the holistic approach and kind of the concepts and the philosophies behind them. One of our favorite books is by Dr. Pitcairn. Natural Health for Dogs and Cats was a book that he wrote. It's a very good insight.
Yeah, it's called The Complete Guide to Natural Health for Dogs and Cats. I just warn people in the most recent edition, which I can't remember when that was, 2014 maybe. I always recommend the 2006 edition because in the most recent edition, he and his wife have decided that all dogs and cats must be vegan in order to save the planet.
Which we do not agree with.
Yeah, not on board with that.
No. So try and get the older version, or if you do get the updated version, just know that you're going to see recipes in the back that we do not consider species appropriate.
Right. The reason I recommend his book is because in the whole back part of the book is like you can look up, I think my dog has a UTI. Is there like something that I can get started?
It's a very user-friendly
my
resource.
dog has an ear infection. What should I do? His recommendations work pretty well. So it is kind of an easy go-to. You can look up a problem and kind of see what he says about it. And he gives recommendations for herbs and homeopathic remedies and tells you how to use them. And then in the whole first part of the book, it is kind of a complete guide. So he covers nutrition, exercise, training, all of those sorts of things.
So I will definitely, as always, link that in the description box below. And I'll try and make sure to link the older version, which is, we're a little bit more fond of that. And then there's also a book called What Your Vet Never Told You by Odette Suter. And again, it's not a huge book, and it's put across in a way that is very just easy to understand and really gives kind of a good perspective and a good take on looking at things more holistically. And so I'll make sure to link that one below as well. But basically the punchline for this episode is, in our experience, the investment into good fresh food for your dog is going to pay in dividends. Not only will it actually save you actual money in the long run, but it is going to eliminate or head off at the pass so many problems. And so when you take a holistic approach, when you invest in the fresh food, and I will say, and I can say this from experience, everything else aside from the food to treat my dog or to do prevention with my dog is the same, if not less expensive than the conventional approach.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I do need to treat my dog for something and I need to use a supplement, far less expensive than a drug. It just the holistic approach really overall, even in your wallet, is less expensive, but then you're also going to eliminate a lot of potential heartache with your dog in their health, giving them health and longevity. Truly, that's really the punchline of these two things, and why we're so passionate about sharing this approach with people is because people are like, why do you care so much about dog food? Because I'm tired of seeing animals suffer. I'm tired of seeing pet owners heartbroken because they just had to put their 3-year-old down, who had cancer. I mean, this is insane, the stuff that people are having to suffer through, whether it's, watching their animals suffer, the amount of money that people are just hemorrhaging trying to deal with these things. This is not the way that it needs to be. Dogs should not be dying, before they're 10 years old. This kind of stuff does not need to happen. So that's why we beat the drum. And that's really why we keep bringing these things. And hopefully you found this encouraging. And we will continue to explore different topics. And Dr. Lee, do you have any final thoughts?
I certainly would prefer to deal with food and supplements and go naturally on the front end, which is a lot easier than trying to fix problems later. So
100%. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on the Crunchy Carnivore Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Our goal is always to encourage others to seek out the holistic approach by way of education and empowerment. You can check out our online resources at wellspringhaa.com. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, Wellspring Holistic Animal Academy, and you can also find us on Instagram at wellspring_HAA. We hope that this has been helpful and that you continue with us on your journey to holistic health for your pets. As always, we're here to be unapologetically all natural.